What's going on, everybody? Today I'm trying to showcase my Druid build that I have been playing. Now, a lot of people out there like to play Druid in a few different ways, so I kind of wanted to show you the way that I prefer to play Druid. Most people end up multi-classing with Druid, and for a couple good reasons. When playing as a wolf, the tier 5s in the enhancement tree, they're not that good. They're not really inspiring, and they definitely pale in comparison to some of the awesome tier 5s you can get in other enhancement trees. Most specifically, the Barbarian tree, or the Fighter tree, Barbarian Frenzied Berserker, or Fighter Kensai. Those trees have really good tier 5s, whereas the Wolf doesn't really have as good tier 5s, and as a result, most people like to multi-class it, so that way they can get the good stuff of being in wolf form, and then also get the good stuff from other trees. One of the reasons why people like to use wolf form so much, not only does it look cool because you get to be a wolf, but also because of the way the attack system works. When you're playing in wolf form, whatever weapon is in your main hand is the weapon that you are attacking with, and all of the properties that come along with that weapon, which means if you happen to be using a short sword, then you will be attacking the target as though you're attacking with a short sword, with the wolf attack speed and the wolf animations. However, if you decide to use a two-handed weapon like a maul or great axe, then all of a sudden you will be getting the fast wolf attack speed and the awesome wolf animations with a two-handed weapon, which makes two-handed weapons really strong. Two-handed weapons are balanced off by the fact that they have really high base damage, but also they're not quite as wieldy, and they don't hit nearly as fast as two-weapon fighting. But if you can subvert this whole thing and say, hey, I'm just going to throw a two-handed weapon in a character that attacks just as fast as a two-weapon fighter, well, guess what? It turns out it's actually really good. So a lot of people like to do the multi-classes with the Barbarian and the Fighter. There's a couple different versions of it. I think the most popular version right now is like Druid 11, I think it's Barbarian 11, Druid 8, and then Cleric or Favored Soul 1. And the idea behind this build is that you go with the Barbarians, you get the improved Rage, so with 11, and you also get the tier 5 in the Frenzied Berserker tree, and then you play as or maybe it's Ravager, I'm not really sure. And then you get the wolf stuff. Yeah, that's other people's builds. My build, I don't multi-class at all. And one of the reasons why I don't multi-class is because by multi-classing you lose out on Druid spells, and I don't want to lose out on Druid spells, because Druids have a lot of very good spells. To start off, they get Regenerate Mass at level 9, which is a fantastic AoE utility spell, where you just kind of quickly press a button and then all of a sudden everyone near you is regenerating all of their negative levels, their ability point damage, and a ton of health in a very short period of time. I really like that. It's very easy to use. It's good for you. It's good for your whole team. Very supportive. So one of the nice things about being a Druid is that you can do so many different things. And then on top of that, I like the other 9th level spell, Snow Slide. Snow Slide is an amazing spell that too many people don't realize or even use, and I'm sure you're going to see lots of clips up here of me while I'm talking about Snow Slide and how it works. Basically, Snow Slide is an attack in which you dash just like another dash, Abundant Step, or Leap of Faith, or any of these other straightforward dashing attacks. But this one goes directly through enemies, and when it goes through enemies, if it makes contact, it does an attack, which does a whole bunch of extra damage, because it has bonus critical threat range and critical multiplier, but also it has a chance to freeze them with an extremely high DC that is pretty much the same as your Dire Charge. And as I'm sure you know, Dire Charge DC, Dire Charge pretty much never doesn't land. It lands basically every time. Especially once you get to epics and you have as much strength as most people do when you got like 100 and some strength and all the DCs and everything. Being able to freeze pretty much whatever target you want on command is extremely powerful. So going into raids or different Reaper 10 type content, you can freeze wisps or oozes or constructs or undead and stun these targets and make them helpless. The build also gets a very high amount of helpless damage, meaning that your character is able to deal a really high amount of damage once you freeze something solid. The freezing is good not just for actually damaging the targets, but just locking some stuff down so they can't actually get to your teammates and kill you. It's very useful, and it's something I don't really like to give up. Another thing I like about Snow Slide is the fact that it moves real fast. Once you get it at level 17, holy moly, you feel like a rocket ship just flying all the way through quests straight to the end, and epic leveling is extremely quick thanks to your great, fantastic movement speed. Like a little wolf torpedo, you just start dashing around and getting through quests really fast. A lot of people will probably fall behind because of just how quickly you move, and it can be very irritating when you're leveling with other people. Like the difference between how fast you move on a wolf druid versus how fast you move on a cleric. It's pretty staggering, so make sure that you let your friends know, like, hey, at level 17, this is going to be really annoying to play with me, because you're always going to have to be playing catch-up. But it's really fun. I like it a lot, and that's kind of why I play Pure Druid. Now, a lot of people say that you can't really play Pure Druid as a melee character in epic difficulty, and I don't think that's true at all. partially because I played this character in Reaper raids and also in Reaper 10s, and my character does lots of damage and is just fine for that type of content. And as somebody who has experience with that type of content, I'm going to tell you this right away. As long as you're building your character properly, you can definitely still play a melee druid in Reaper 10 content and be able to contribute a lot. You just need to make sure that you're really maximizing out some of the different aspects of your build, like learning how to snowslide the right targets, learning when to trip, when to use your go for the kill to knock targets down, and kind of some of the cool quirks about the character. One of the things that a lot of people don't know is that snowslide actually freezes some targets like the shadow totems in Babala Saga. So when you're doing Babala Saga, if you don't have a lot of people who are frogging, if you don't have a lot of people who are hurling, you can just go ahead and freeze those shadow totems solid and be able to just rip them apart extremely quickly with all of your helplessness damage. But this character is a lot of fun to play, and I don't think you should be discouraged just because you're playing a pure druid. Very strong, very versatile, has evasion. Now, it doesn't have quite as much health as some of these other builds, and like I said, it's probably a little bit behind on damage, but the additional utility you get is very, very strong if you know how to make that utility work. Now, I'm going to take some time to go through the build here so you can kind of see how it works, and you'll have a chance to kind of get an idea of what it takes to make this character work, even though you're not doing that crazy multiclassing stuff, and how you make a druid actually function as a melee fighter. And very last minute, right at the end, I have included a clip of a Reaper 10 Toxic Treatment end boss fight, which I thought some people might find interesting. So if you're interested, stick to the end, and it is right there. There'll be a timestamp in the description for that as well. So let's break down this character and the build that I've got right here. So I'm a pure druid, that is 20 druid. I'm playing as a half-orc. I'm playing as a half-orc because of the bonuses that you get to two-handed fighting, as well as all the power attack and helpless damage bonus. My character is a strength-based build, so strength is kind of the most important thing. I've also got decently good saves, fortunately, because I am, in fact, a druid. They get good will and fortitude saves. The reflex saves are not so good, but I use a lot of items and other effects to make sure I bump up those reflex saves, since my character does actually get evasion while in wolf form. One other thing that's important to note, especially on this page, is that the physical resistance rating, especially if you're playing melee, you want to get as much physical resistance rating as possible. You're going to get hit all the time, so keeping that up is really important. Now, this character is actually a light armor-based character, so I have my missed late investment right here. Having light armor means it's going to be much harder to get your physical resistance rating higher, but there are a couple tricks that you can use to actually get your physical resistance rating a bunch higher, one of which is to use Tensor's Transformation Scrolls if you happen to have Use Magic Device. I don't think I took Use Magic Device. I didn't, but you can do that to get an extra 10 bonus physical resistance rating. And, of course, just making sure that you're getting physical resistance rating, quality physical resistance rating, insightful physical resistance rating, and picking it up out of your Reaper trees. The actual character build for the feats, they're pretty basic and standard. One of the most important things you can get for Druid is the natural fighting feat. It just gives you some melee power, physical resistance rating, and double strike chance. But most importantly, it actually works together with epic defensive fighting to give you additional hit points. So this character does have 25 additional hit points, or 25% from epic defensive fighting. As far as majority of my feats go, I took one epic or one heroic past life, which was completionist. I nabbed power attack because power attack is super good for this type of character, and then of course it was epic defensive fighting. Now, as far as weapons, druids, the only two-handed weapon that they can actually use are quarterstaffs. And while I do have some ideas for a druid quarterstaff build that might actually work, in the meantime, you kind of got to use an actual real weapon. And the two options for doing that is either A, play as like a half-elf. So if you play as a half-elf, you can take a fighter dilettante, and it gives you all of the martial weapons. So you can use a great sword, or a great axe, or a maul. Or B, you can take the proficiencies here. So I actually took martial weapon proficiency. I have maul and I have greatsword. The reason is because I use greatsword just for the purposes of leveling. So I was using Sword of Shadow for the majority of my leveling process, and it was extremely easy to do since this weapon is very, very strong. And then when I got to epics, I was planning on using the Great Axe Torn, which I think I have somewhere in here. Yeah, I was planning on using Torn. Turns out I didn't actually have any at the time. I didn't have Torn. So instead of using Torn, I got Tremor, and I started using Tremor. Torn is a better weapon, so I'd recommend using Torn instead of Tremor, but you know, this is good enough. It's good enough anyway. So the actual feat progression is essentially Greatsword is as soon as you can get it. I think it's the first feat that you take. You want to take Greatsword, then you want to take Power Attack. Then I took Completionist, and then I started working on the natural fighting feats. Pick it to improve critical for slashing. One of the benefits of Tremor, the Breaker of Bones, is that you actually don't need to take improved critical. It comes with Impact 5, which doubles the critical threat range, and doesn't stack with the improved critical feat. So I didn't really need to take it. It was kind of nice. Other than that, for my epic feats, I took a lot of toughness, because toughness is what gives you extra health, and there aren't a lot of good feats available, although I'll have the whole feat listing. And then for my Scion feat, the best thing to take is Scion of the Shadowfell, or not Shadowfell, sorry, Scion of the Ethereal Plane. And I did not take that. I took Scion of Arborea because I didn't actually put any points into Hide because I totally spaced. The last neat feat that I took was Epic Reflexes, so you don't automatically fail a reflex saving throw on a 1. My character's reflex saving throw is 72, and then I fortunately have an extra 9 reflex from Reaper points, so when I go into Reaper mode, it bumps up to 81, and then getting any additional buffs makes it to the point where I don't fail my reflex saving throws pretty much any time, and I'm completely immune to area of effect spell damage, which is kind of cool. So the next thing I want to look at is the tree. Now, if you're playing as a pure druid, some people might be curious as to why, considering the capstone for Beast Form Mastery is not that great. And the big reason why I want to take it is because of the spells. The spells that you get when you're playing as a druid are fantastic. The 8th level spells don't really matter, neither do the 7th or the 6th or whatever. But right up here, you get this ability, Snow Slide. And Snow Slide is a spell in which you dash extremely quickly and freeze a bunch of targets. This spell is pretty much indispensable. I love using it. It makes it so you run around through quests faster. It also gives you a ton of utility, so you can freeze all sorts of different types of monsters. Very few monsters are actually immune to the freeze, which means you can freeze oozes, you can freeze constructs, you can freeze undead, allowing you to stun targets that a lot of other players wouldn't even be able to stun at all. So very, very useful ability. It's pretty much the reason why you go with pure druid over multiclassing. Now, you could actually multiclass maybe in a level of fighter or something else, so that way you could get all the weapon proficiencies without having to actually take any of the feats, but you'd lose out on Beast Form Mastery. I don't know if pure druid is the way to go, but I would hazard a guess that at least a minimum of 17 druid to give you access to Snow Slide is pretty much the only way I would ever play it. And I figured, hey, I'm already going pure druid, so it seems good enough. Now, the actual tree here, we're going to break it down. I put up pretty much everything in the half-orc tree, because the half-orc tree is super good. It gives strength, +2 to hit and damage for two-handed weapons all the way going up the tree, as well as picking up Orcish Rage, the best action boost in the game for 40 primal bonus to melee power and +2 strength. +3 additional damage when you use Power Attack with an extra -3 to hit. This actually doesn't matter too much with the -3 to hit, because you have a lot of hit chance on this type of character from picking up all the hit chance out of here and Nature's Warrior, which we're going to talk about in a second. But getting the extra damage, this is actually doubled. So right now, with this Power Attack active, I'm getting 16 extra points of damage from my Power Attack, which is pretty good. Then you get extra power rage, extra strength while raging, and then Raging Crush. One of the reasons why Raging Crush is so good is because in animal forms, it's actually a triple hit, so it doesn't just hit once, it's like attack, 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 so it's really, really useful for that. Then we look forward to the Nature's Warrior tree. There's a lot of interesting stuff in here. One of the things that's most interesting and why a lot of people like the multi-class build, playing with like the Barbarian and stuff, is because the tier 5 up here in the Wolf tree actually isn't that useful. It's not too necessary. It's useful for me. I like getting evasion. I like picking up Jaws of Ice so I can get 300 temporary hit points whenever I need it. It does save your life. And Go for the Kill has a really high critical threat range, so it's an awesome crit attack, and it just gives you a little melee power, which is a bonus you can keep up 100% of the time. So you can think of this as 1 point, gain at least 15 melee power, which is pretty good for a 1-pointer. One of the reasons why I said you don't worry about hit chance too much is because each core gives you +1 to hit and damage. So this is +6 to hit and damage. This is +8 to hit and damage. So you're +14 to hit and +14 to damage. And then you pick up Fight, which is another +3 to damage. If you want, you could actually go into Brother Wolf to get an extra +3 to hit and damage, but then you have to keep your wolf alive, and that's basically impossible, so I did not use that at all. There's probably some optimization I could do in here, but I took the double strike. This thing here, Essence of the Strike, is essential because it makes it so you have infinite mana. 20 temporary spell points whenever you get a crit. Doesn't sound that great, but you crit pretty much constantly with this character, and all your spells, this costs 6, this costs 15, this costs 20. So you're pretty much always going to be getting enough temporary mana to use all your spells, and you only use your actual mana for healing, which is kind of good. Then we go to Nature's Protector. For the specific reason, Nature's Defense is not, it's a defensive stance, but you can use it while raging. You just can't use it with other defensive stances. Doesn't give any extra aggro, so you can pick up the physical magical resistance rating. You can pick up +3 to all saving throws. You get all the rage stuff along the left side of the tree, lets you cast spells while raging, as well as getting immunity to death effects, which is really nice. And then I personally take Beast at Bay allowing you to have another action boost, so that way when I go into my Epic Destinies, I actually don't need to take any of the action boosts out of Legendary Dreadnought. I can spend more points on Strength and other stuff, because I have plenty of action boosts to get me through different dungeons. So this is kind of good. Now, as far as the Epic Destinies, I do use Legendary Dreadnought with this character. Legendary Tactics, extra action boosts, all pretty standard stuff. I went with Improved Power Attack because I do have Power Attack on, so getting a little bit more damage there. Picking up Strength, and then since I am using the Hammer, I have Pulverizer to give me that extra critical threat range to bludgeoning weapons. My twists, the ones that I like to use personally, Sense Weakness, because it gives you the helplessness damage. And this character gets a lot of helplessness damage. 30% right here, 15% right here, and 20% right here. So if a target is helpless, you destroy them, which is pretty good, especially for like Reaper 10s when you get the chance to do those. Balanced Attacks, which is a twist out of Primal Avatar. It gives you +6 to hit, which is great, and also makes it so that when you Vorpal a guy, they get knocked down and become helpless. The helplessness is kind of the key here. It's defensive, but it's also the helplessness factor, which is really nice, so you get that extra damage from Sense Weakness. Then I take Dragonhide, so that way I don't automatically fail Fortitude saves on a 1. There are some ridiculous Fortitude saves out there. Horde Wilting is one of them. As long as your Fortitude save is 84 or higher, then you will not fail Horde Wilting on a 1. You will never fail Horde Wilting, which is very good for raids like Babala Saga. And finally, I took Brace for Impact because I don't know what else to use. This last slot's pretty flexible. If you have more points, there's some other stuff you can take, but this is kind of the basics as to what I decided to do. Now, if you want to try this character out yourself, and you're like, oh man, Strip Tom, I want to play this. This looks pretty cool. I want to do this. Well, how do you do it? Basically, if you don't have enough points, because I have a bunch of racial points and stuff, the only universal point I have here is spent to the Falconry tree to get a Falcon, because I think Falcons are cool. So if you have no universal points, don't worry about it. And if you have no racial points, also don't worry about it. You just take stuff out of the half-orc tree, so just take out some of this stuff. Now, the sad part of this is that I have 8 racial points. So if you take out 8 points, it leaves you with 16. With only 16 points, that means you can probably take Raging Crush, which is the essential thing here, and then you can't take this stuff, because this stuff costs that extra 8 points. So that's what you would want to take, but you can't, so I would just go with Raging Crush instead. But yeah, that's basically it. This character is pretty good. I'll quickly go through the items so you can kind of see the item build that I've got going on here. For this character, so I'm using the Ravenloft Silent Avengers set, so I'm using the Legendary Mistladen Investment, as well as the Shadow Hail Cloak and Braided Cutcord, pretty standard. For the rest of my items, I wanted to make sure I could pick up the Adherent of the Mist set, so I've got the Legendary Ring of Nightfall, Braces of the Fallen Hero, I have the Legendary Flightfoot Greaves, and the Molten Silver Gauntlets, also part of the Mist set, and then of course the Fleetfoot Necklace. Now I actually don't want the Fleetfoot Necklace. There is a necklace that gives you Constitution, the Warden Scribe Pendant. That's the item I actually want, but I don't have it, and I didn't farm it out, so my Constitution's only 41, so my health is a little low. So you should, in theory, be replacing the Fleetfoot Necklace with something that actually gives you Constitution. Now this character, I do use the Legendary 5 Rings as my trinket. The reason I use this is because it gives sheltering, which is kind of nice to get that shore up the magical resistance rating. I don't have that on any gear, but it also gives accuracy. There's no accuracy gear in the game, so make sure you do have a Slave Lord's item for accuracy if you're playing as a melee. It gives quality strength, and it gives vertigo 20, so helping out my trips, because you get bonus stunning from something like the Mighty Stormreach Helm, which is great because it gives you head stunning, but you don't have tripping, and wolves are very trip happy with go for the kill being a trip and takedown being a trip. And then I have the Legendary Precisions lenses because they give you additional action boosts and Insightful Strength 9, which is just really good. And then I use the Band of Insightful Commands because it doesn't give you the Profane Well-Rounded. You already picked that up from the Mistladen Investments. You don't have to worry about that. But the Insightful Accuracy 13 is really powerful. The Quality Deadly is just nice. So I do recommend picking up this item whenever possible. So my character, it says I'm like 150 bonus right now on my chance to hit, but then when I actually turn on Animal Growth, I turn on Rage of the Beast, I turn on Orcish Rage, brings me up to 158, and then I get an extra, I think it's like 25 to hit from sneak attacking, and then also flanking and some other sources. So my character lands somewhere around 195 to hit when I'm actually in Reaper 10s. With plus 170 base damage, I get some nice crits. So that's kind of how I built the character and the way it plays. As far as that, you've got some healing spells. Because I'm playing with Epic Defensive Fighting, it means that you can't just spam heals really quickly and easily, so that's why I use Regenerate Mass. If you want to heal somebody, you just run over top of them, just get close, and then Regenerate Mass. This character, as you'll notice, I actually don't take Quicken. I don't think Quicken's necessary based on how fast it is to cast spells, so like, this is Regenerate Mass, right? Boom, it's casted. So I could Quicken that spell, but I don't think that I need to, because I find Quicken isn't super helpful all the time. For animal form druids, a lot of your spells go off very quickly. The only exception I would say is Heal. Heal takes a little bit of time to cast, for sure, and it would be nice to have, but I'm not sure it's entirely necessary, although your results may vary. I don't think Regenerate Mass requires it, but other stuff might require it. So it's a lot of learning. You got to learn how the playstyle works. You got to learn how the character kind of functions. Essentially, you're not a tank by any margin, although I have tanked Baba on Reaper 1, which you don't. So you're not a tank, but you do. You just bite people, you do some damage. It's a pretty good time. Anyways, if you have any questions, do leave them in the comments below. There's also going to be a build guide posted on the forums, so you'll be able to check that out and see, anything about this character if you want to like review it or check it or play one later in the future. But that's pretty much all I got. Apologize if there's some noise in the background. My sump pump is going crazy right now because it rained like 50 centimeters yesterday, and the house is not flooding because the sump pump is working really well. So anyways, thank you guys for watching. Hope you have an awesome day, and I will see you all later. This guy makes me nervous. Okay. Oh my god. I'm just trying to get rid of the Carnage Reapers. So this guy can be very, very dangerous because he does a decently high amount of damage. And he does it almost like seemingly random in his targeting in what he chooses. So I'm going to quickly make sure I'm just spamming out some regenerates as I'm going around. There's no negative consequences to having regenerates down. Get the hateful stairs. Okay, everything's dead. Alright, good. Now we hit Zig Zit Zarlag. And then he's going to drop, and when he drops down, that's when we want to fan out and very quickly eliminate the eyeballs. I'm going to drop a cloud over here. And once the chaos damage things, ground damage things appear, that's when it gets dangerous. Okay. Okay, one down. Gotta watch out for that chaos damage, though. I got the stun, but oh, the chaos damage went underneath me. Ooh, kill this. Oh, thank you for the heals, people. You get some regenerates going out. Okay, so I think we got most of the eyeballs. There's another eyeball over there. Get a freeze going on. Get another knockdown. Get another knockdown. Over here, take some damage. You gotta be really mindful of these chaos things on the ground. So it's sliding over this way, so that's why I'm gonna move over here. Oh, almost went towards that chaos thing. Okay. And again, be very, very mindful. Oh, I don't know why it exploded. He like knocked me up in the air, which is kind of weird. The stairs are frozen. Oh shit! I gotta break this. Shift 3 is the break. So I can stun these and prevent them from killing my friends. You gotta be really mindful of like the floor effects. That's essentially the killer in here. As long as you don't get hit by floor effects, you're okay. Oh. So that's why you're going to notice me constantly kind of rotating around. I'm trying to very, very neatly not get hit. Magic resistance rating helps you against those floor spots. Again, I want to make sure I'm seeing all of them. I don't want to stand at any point where there's any behind me. They also spawn and respawn in different areas, so again, you got to be paying very close attention. Ooh. Now they clump up on the edges, which is very dangerous for when the actual things spawn, the eyeballs. It's our leg. He's gonna phase really soon. Here he goes. There we go, got that stun. Go over here, Hateful Stare. Grab this. Don't touch that spot on the ground. Okay, down. So it's this entire side is clear. Another one over here. Go grab. Dead. Another one here, just jaded. There's a bunch of Reapers, and I need to be mindful. Oh, can't walk over that. I'm gonna sit over here. Whoa. Oh shit, 800 damage. Oh jeez. Oh, ice. Ice. Okay. 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 Oh, jeez. It's the incremental damage that's causing me problems. It's just the incremental damage that's causing me issues. Okay, so we have a lot of Hateful Stares up. So I'm gonna quickly try to freeze. Knock this one down. He's not frozen. But yeah, the most, like I said, most important thing is don't get hit by those circles because they deal a lot of damage. Frozen? Okay, both of them are frozen. I'm gonna stand back here. Oh, jeez. I'm gonna come over here and heal my friend. Is there anybody I can raise? No, there's not. I'm gonna start damaging Zit's our leg. And hope I don't get hit by anything. This is not somewhere I want to be right now at all. Fortunately, I can generate temporary hit points, so it's not a big deal for me. Because his... Like, oh my god. Oh! That passed right underneath me. It didn't damage me. That's weird. Okay, now I gotta move. I failed to save against something. Okay. Again, just dodge that little piece of shit. And